Hello, I'm Megan Daniel, Administrator for Community Partnerships, and I'm joined by Joe Jobeck, Partnership Director, and we are back with a new series of interviews featuring survivors who are part of the Grupo Esperanza support group that is run by the Rhode Island Latino Cancer Control Task Force. Today we are joined by Wilson Villamar, who is a chaplain at Beacon Hospice and co-chair of the Grupo Esperanza support group, Betty Bernal, who is co-chair of the Latino Cancer Control Task Force, and Mary Monier, who is a cancer survivor and former chair of the Grupo Esperanza. So thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So to get started, Mary, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your cancer survivorship journey.
My cancer journey started when I was born. I was born premature with skin cancer, and then it didn't hit me again until the age of 30, where I had colon cancer, and it affected the sigmoid. And then from there on, it just continued to be okay for a couple of years. And then after 30 years, everything just popped all out all of a sudden. I've had my right kidney removed due to cancer. I've had cancer on the gland on the neck, and I've had small intestine cancer and pancreas, and the small intestine, the pancreas, and my stomach. And this was the first time I received chemo from all the cancers I've had, and it hit me very hard. It was a totally different experience, and I was very sick most of the time. But I am done with chemo, thank God. And yes, and I can move forward and see what life has to offer. I did suffer a lot of side effects from the chemo. And one was the tactile touch and the feet, where they can't feel certain things. And so from that, I am seeing medical doctors and trying to do light exercises to see if I can get the feelings back into my hands and my feet.
My wife, who's an ovarian cancer survivor, has that condition, the neuropathy,
Yes.
hands and feet, which can be troublesome sometimes. My goodness, you've certainly been through a lot, Mary. And you're still smiling though.
Life is good. I have to be thankful to God for life.
We're glad. So you mentioned this was your first round with chemotherapy. Did you have different treatments for your other cancers, or?
No, with my other cancers, they caught them in time. They never went to stage 1 or stage 2. This one was stage 2. And so it was by accident that it wasn't noticed at first. It was 1 year, every year I have to have a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. And the 1 year I didn't have the endoscopy, the cancer was already brewing inside of me, and we didn't know it. And so then the following year, when I went in because I was complaining of pain, that's when they discovered that there was something in there.
Yeah, I guess that speaks to the importance of screening tests, and
Yes.
they can help save your life. Or
Screening is very important.
yeah. I also want to ask about, so you said you were born with the skin cancer. Did genetics play a role with that? Do you know?
Yes, it did. In 2007, I was tested for genetics, and I came out positive for the Lynch syndrome, LYNCH. And so I have passed this information down to my siblings and my children, my adult children. And unfortunately, a year and a half ago, my oldest granddaughter, who just turned 30, was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, affecting her liver. And that was through neglect of all the years of not knowing that it was growing. It was growing for 8 years before they detected it. So she's doing well. She went through a tough round of chemo as well. And I have to say she's back at work and doing good, thank God.
Great to hear. So I want to ask you a little bit about the support group. So how did you find out about Grupo Esperanza, and when did you join?
I had been a co-op chairperson of the first group, Yo Si Puedo, Yes I Can, which I had started years ago with Betty at St. Joseph Hospital when I was working there at the Lead Center. And I used to run groups from there. And then when I handed it over to Betty, we went a few years with nothing. And then Betty contacted me and said to me, Mary, we have a new group going. Would you be interested in coming? And I said, yes. And to this day, I was faithful to my group again. I like the group because it touches a lot of subjects that everyone needs to know about. Some meetings are everything, all the meetings are not about information. Some are about fun, to relax, to do activities. And that's great for the mind, and what they're doing is great. I applaud their efforts at keeping everybody together.
So, Mary, have you been continuing to meet in person, or are you meeting through Zoom, or?
We're meeting through Zoom
Was that
every second Thursday of the month.
Was that
Have you found attendance? I'm sorry, go ahead, Megan.
I just wanted to know if that was an easy adjustment for the group. Is it still kind of the same dynamic?
It's a little hard for some of the members. They have not been able to connect to the WhatsApp app to get into the Zoom meetings, and I don't know for their own reasons why, but the group is smaller when we meet through Zoom, but everybody is waiting for the moment when we can meet in person again. Hugs are missed.
Joe, what were you gonna ask?
Actually, a similar question, if you'd seen the participation had dropped off, or the amount of participation of the people attending the group, because it was Zoom and not in person, was a little less engaging, something like that.
Yes, it has dropped due to less engagement in person, and we understand that, but a lot of people try. And me, myself, I have one of the members that I call her and I keep her in touch with what's going on, and I keep persuading her to join us on the meetings, and she has not been able to do so to this date.
That seems to be a big barrier with the technology, and we spoke
Yes.
about that with one of our board members actually in these interviews. So it seems like it's a big barrier, and something the cancer community and I guess the community in general can work on.
Right. I agree.
I was going to say, Mary, you're a very resilient person. What do you attribute that to? I mean, obviously, you've had skin cancer, you've had, you mentioned colon cancer, cancer of the kidney, stomach, etc. Someone else would have just given up. So how do you get through this?
Through the grace of God and my love for my family, and having people to support me in those moments when I'm down and out.
So something like the Latino Cancer Control Task Force.
That's where the Latino Cancer Task Force comes in. I've been a part of them also, and I enjoy working with them and being with them and being active in the community.
Yeah. We're glad you found them, and clearly they have helped you through this.
Yes.
Time, so we're glad. And speaking of that, I wanted to bring up COVID-19 a little bit. How has your experience changed? So you said you were going through, this was your first time with chemotherapy and, having the pandemic going on. What was that like, and how is that different to your experiences with cancer before?
It's been very harder. It's been harder than the other experiences from before due to the chemo and also to the COVID, because it restricts me due to my low immune system. And I'm also asthmatic. So, at 65 years old, you have to be very careful. And it is what it is. And I have learned to just balance it out little by little. I've had my moments when I've been down and depressed, because that's normal, going through chemo and then being locked up without being able to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. But phone calls, with families and loved ones have helped me a lot.
Like Joe
Say
mentioned,
that.
clearly are very resilient and having all of these things happen at once. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
One of the things that some cancer patients have talked about, and you've touched on it, was sort of that isolation you feel a bit. Particularly, some of the staff in the cancer centers were talking about how, it's a dilemma for them because sometimes people are coming in for cancer treatment and their spouse wants to come in with them and they're not allowed to, for safety reasons. And, as one of them, cancer director said to me, it's a real dilemma because the nursing part of you knows that you really shouldn't allow that. But the human part of you realizes how much this person would benefit from having the spouse there, and you still have to say no. So it puts everybody in kind of a tough spot.
It does.
But it sounds like, could you talk a little more about with the Latino community, how that, and La Esperanza in particular, how that has kind of been part of your network, how you've built that? Because I think it's important. One of the things that strikes me about you, Mary, is you've got your family, but your family's in Louisiana, or you said Florida, and away. So you've had to rely on some of your support system or build a support system locally, right?
Right.
So
Well, I haven't had a big support system, but that's where the cancer Grupo Esperanza comes in, because I was able to go to the meetings through rides or Uber, and even for the other cancer survivors, the group has meant so much to us because it's a place where we gather once a month for 2 to 2.5 hours. Is where we all change things that have happened to us during the past month. We bring everybody up to date. We pray for those that are still sick or going through chemotherapy. And it's a great support group. And I think it's very much needed in many places. And I'm so glad that we have it here in Rhode Island because it's not available everywhere.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
The Latino community benefits from it because it's in their own language and they don't have to struggle with trying to speak English.
Yeah. Dr. Calvino is on our board of directors. I don't know if you know Dr. Calvino, but
yes,
he was talking about sometimes how the language can be a barrier, that, for example, for men, maybe they don't go for screening because they're not as aware of how important that is, and maybe there isn't that same kind of attention they might get from the healthcare provider if there isn't a language barrier. So those are all things that we hope to work on. One of the things the partnership wants to focus on in the coming year, what's health equity, trying to, within the Latino community, within the Black community, within the LGBTQ community, trying to get those areas that are underserved get more services. So these types help to give people an understanding of what you're going with.
right. If we had more services available, I'm sure that the Latino community would attend it. Well, not now with the pandemic, but through other ways. And if we could get them to get into the Zoom, they would see how much easier it would be so that they could enjoy the meetings just like they used to before.
Mary, Wilson here.
Hi, Wilson.
Hi. I have a question. In this experience, in your trajectory with cancer, do you belong to other groups? And if so, do you find the support that you are finding in the Latino community, and what is the difference, if any?
I only have 2 groups that support me, and that is the Grupo Esperanza and the grupo called Mujeres, and we meet once a week on Fridays through Zoom. But both groups have been awesome in support. because when you're down and out and you really don't want to connect, you do connect, and you find that it uplifts your spirits. And it's good to see other members that belong to the group and share with each other. I think that's a great factor, that we are able to commit and be able to connect with each other through Zoom.
Mm, yeah. So yeah, I was talking more about in the past, when there was not a Grupo Esperanza, was there another group that you belonged to? And, did you see any differences in the way the meetings happen?
No, I did not go to any other groups. Once I stopped running the groups I was running, I stopped going to meetings of any kind.
Okay.
It was something that just happened, and then that's why when Betty told me that Grupo Esperanza was starting and that it was going to be going on, I was so happy to hear that.
Well, we're happy you're part of the group.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, when you weren't going to the support groups, is that because there was a lack of support groups that you thought would be beneficial to you?
Right, because I had been to another group support, but I didn't find it as close, or as, they are caring, but there are people in the group that I found that there was a lack of knowing everybody. And so it didn't run the same way that Grupo Esperanza goes. Grupo Esperanza, everybody knows each other. Everybody comes in, hey, how you doing? We hug, we kiss, we sit down, we get up together, we have snacks, meals, whatever. But in the other group, even though there might have been refreshments served, it wasn't the same. So I just stayed away from everything. And what I did back then was I used to go dancing on weekends. I love to dance.
Oh, that's great. So there's kind of a connection between the
That
art.
was my my way of venting out, was going dancing.
I love that.
Well, I think that was the reason why we created. Initially, we did the Spanish version of I Can Cope from ACS. I was working at the ACS at that time. So when I met Mary Munier, and I asked her and her boss if we can run the I Can Cope through St. Joseph Hospital.
Right.
It was well received, was the only Spanish support group. So when they fade out, because Mary left St. Joseph and we don't have no one to run, it was for a couple of years without any support group for the Latino community. So when Wilson and I decided to run it again and change the name to Grupo Esperanza, it was immediately, I mean, we had most of the people that participated in the prior group, but we also attract new people. And that's very important, because we have that connection that Mary refers. It is a different, and that we feel like so integrated, so well connected, that we are a family. We become a family. And Isabel and Wilson had been done a wonderful job in trying to keep this group together throughout the months. And now with Zoom, we thought that we maybe have a better participation with Zoom. We didn't find out what is the reason why not everyone is participating now, because I mean, we thought there is not, sometimes we had the transportation barriers of people who are doing chemo. They don't feel that they can go to the support group, but we will find out, and we will try. And as Mary says, she is always contacting a couple of the survivors. You mentioned it only one, but it's two that you always be in contact and try to get them to come. And besides, other survivors are doing the same. And we have volunteers. And what is the beauty of having Mary with us? I mean, to me, Mary is one of our biggest role model for the survivors. I mean, all the struggles that she went through, and her attitude is always high. She's always been positive, and people look at her when they have their own little battles. And I mean, seeing her is a exemplary for other survivors too. But not only that, but Mary was one of the best volunteers that we have with the Latino Cancer Control Task Force. She took a role in the leadership group, but I mean, it is really, I really commend Mary, and I thank God for putting her on our way and making her helping us throughout all these years. So how long it's been, Mary? You were, when I formed the Latino Cancer Control Task Force back in 2006, you
Yeah.
were among the leadership in that.
Yes.
So if money weren't an issue, is there one thing that would make a difference, would help to make a bigger difference than what services are available now? If again, funding wasn't an object, it wasn't a barrier for you.
Funding proves to be a big barrier, a big factor, because it provides for a space for us to meet, or even to pay for the Zoom so that we can meet together. And without the funding, we wouldn't be able to reach a lot of people. So that's how I see it on my part, that we need the funding to make it go well, especially for meetings, so that everybody knows that there's somebody out there that cares and that we're there for you, you know?
I think that one of the problems we have is with the outreach. If we were to have a person who will do outreach, you know, with phone call, following up meetings, and, you know, inviting people, finding out why is this that they cannot join this month or whatever, probably we will have a more connected group. And that, because we all we do is in a volunteer basis, sometimes difficult because life gets in the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I do believe that we will love to have that, a person who will do that outreach.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I mean, if money is not the issue, I think that what the Latino Cancer Control Task Force needs is to have a dedicated person to connect survivors with the resources, to check on survivors, to make them to come to the meetings now via Zoom, and also to always look for innovative ways to keep them engaged.
Yes.
And that's what money to pay a dedicated person and a space to have an office, because we have everything that belongs to the Latino Cancer Control Task Force is either in the trunk of my car, in Wilson's house, in Isabel's house. So we don't have a space that we say this is our the place that we can even make phone calls for cancer survivors.
And I think that what we need to understand is the group really tries to, I don't know, bring together a lot of stuff that people need that they wouldn't find somewhere else. You know, it's not just the meeting. We have an annual retreat a day when we gather together. We do celebrate different occasions, and we try to provide with things for the survivors, so they will, you know, diary, so they will continue to write their experience. And so there are a lot of things that is not just the meeting itself, you know. Each meeting, each retreat has food, you know, for people to eat. So I think that our group in that sense is a little different, because many of our survivors don't really have a lot of resources from somewhere else for this kind of work.
So it sounds like your group is a support group, but it's also like a social work group in a way. People like Mary taking on responsibility to try to engage people to get to the meetings, and you're talking about having food, or maybe somebody finds out about another resource that they were not aware of, before. So it sounds like you certainly almost create like an umbrella over somebody, right? Where you're trying to provide a lot of different things out of a support group.
Yes, because many of those sometimes people don't have the the resources, or they don't have the information. So we try to be a group that involves support, listening, resources, education, outreach, connection. It's just a way for us to help the survivors to try to do the best they can in any given situation. You know, the people who don't show up to 2 or 3 meetings, I try to find time to call them and say, hey, I haven't seen you. What happened? Are you okay? You know, that again involves a lot of energy, time that we don't always have.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing is, many of our people, I think I had told you before, don't have the services in their language. You know, I do believe that many of us will benefit probably from therapists or psychologists to whom we can talk in our language about this struggle, the many things that we are finding along the way. You know, I consider Mary to be a pillar of our community of support. You know, her spirituality is such, her faith is such that is, I think a lot of people find a lot of it. It's not only Mary finding strength herself from that spirituality, but a lot of people also looking at her and her struggles and her spirituality and her faith, and people feeling connected to that and drawn to that. And it's just wonderful, the energy that emanates from the relationship and from the stories. You know, so I thank you, Mary, for your participation. Thank you for your being, for your doing, for you staying present to the struggles, your own struggles, and the struggles of all the other people that you meet.
Thank you.
That's quite a tribute. That's quite a tribute.
Yes,
Yeah.
he left me at a loss for words. All I can say is thank you.
So I just want to ask one last question, Mary, if that's okay. To close us off, I guess, what are your biggest takeaways from your cancer survivorship experience, and what advice do you have for other cancer survivors, and particularly in the Latinx community?
Just hold on to your families and friends and your faith, most of all. Most importantly, always have a positive outlook on life, because life is beautiful regardless of the struggles we go through. There are ups and downs, and all I can say is what worked for me may not work for everybody, but I would say to everybody, don't lose your faith, because it's very hard to lose faith, and especially when you hear the first words, cancer. It's a big shock to people. And when you're not explaining the meaning or the significance of it in your language, it makes it harder. It's a harder struggle. So if we could have more Spanish-speaking interpreters in many fields, it would help a lot of the communities to better understand what they're going through. But just stay strong.
Great. Those are wonderful words. Well, thank you, Mary, for taking the time, and thank you,
Mary.
and Betty.
Thank you.
Betty
Thank you
Wilson.
for having me.